everyone. In this video, I am going to explain the entire process of Federal Skilled Worker Program through Express Entry to become the permanent resident of Canada in about 10 minutes. Hey everyone, Faraz here. Today I am going to be explaining the Federal Skilled Worker Program. Every year, Canada welcomes tens and thousands of people from all over the world through this program, and you could be one of them. Federal Skilled Worker is one of the main options for foreign workers to immigrate to Canada permanently. The program allows workers and their families to apply for permanent resident status without having a Canadian work experience or Canadian job offer. Since 2015, Federal Skilled Worker Program has been the part of Canada Express Entry. I will speak about a little bit detail about Express Entry at the later part of the video. Now I want to dive a little bit deeper into the eligibility requirements. What are the Federal Skilled Worker point system, the traditional one? So let's jump into the eligibility requirements. Number one, you must have 12 months of continuous skilled work experience. Number two, you must have to have an educational qualification that is equivalent to Canadian high school diploma. And number three is the language ability in either English or French. You must possess the test scores in all four areas of language ability: reading, writing, speaking and listening. That is equivalent to CLB score 7 minimum just to get eligible. These minimum requirements do not mean that you will get a PR. This is just to apply. But in order to get a very competitive candidate, you must have way more than the minimums. I am going to explain shortly. Now let's analyze a little bit the 6 selection factors in the traditional Federal Skilled Worker point system. You need to gain 67 points in order to get eligible for permanent residence in Canada. Number one is age. If you are 28 to 35 years old, you will get maximum point in age factor, that is 12. Number two in the selection factor is education. As I mentioned, even if you have just a high school diploma, you are eligible to apply, but you are not competitive. So in order to claim the maximum number of points, that is 25 in education, you need to have a doctorate degree. Or if you are a doctor or a dentist or lawyer, you can claim 22 points. If you have 3 years of post-secondary education, you can get 21 points. And only 5 points are given to the person who have a high school diploma. So this means higher the level of education you have, greater is the probability to gain 67 points. There is another aspect of education, that is assessment through accredited organization from Government of Canada. Basically they assess your educational credentials for Canadian equivalency. There are many organizations like World Education Services, International Credential Assessment Services of Canada, International Qualification Assessment Services, IQAS. So everyone who wants to apply for Canadian permanent resident status must have these credential assessment before you apply. The third selection factor is experience, was skilled work experience. If you have 6 or more years of skilled work experience, you can claim the maximum point, that is 15. So higher the number of years of experience you have, higher the points you will get. Simple. Number 4 is language ability. Canada is bilingual, English and French. So first official language and the second official language. The total points for the first official language is 24 and for the second is 4. So total number of points for the language ability is 28. So if you want to claim, for example, 24 points in the first official language as English, so you need to have the scores that are equivalent to CLB level 9 or higher. What is CLB? It's a Canadian language benchmark. So now the question is, what is the relationship between CLB and IELTS? Okay, it's a little confusing. If you want to, for example, I just make it simple. If you want to claim all 24 points in the first official language as English, you need to obtain 7 bands in each module of reading, writing, and speaking, and 8 bands in listening. This will give you 24 points. I told it's a competitive program. If you want to become a very competitive candidate, you need to work on these scores. Number 5 is arranged employment in Canada. You can claim 10 points if you have a job offer, valid job offer in the profession you are going to do. Number 6 is adaptability. There are many sub factors in adaptability where you can claim some points. Number 1 is if you or your spouse has a past studies in Canada, you can get 5 points. If you or your spouse has a past work experience in Canada, you can get 5 points. If you have a relative in Canada, your parents, your grandparents, your uncle, aunt, your nephew, niece, blood relations, you can get 5 points. So all these adaptability factors can give you some additional points in order to reach the milestone of 67. So these are the 6 selection factors. I summarize: age, education, work experience, language ability, arranged employment, and adaptability. Now we can dive a little bit deeper into the express entry. What is that? How it works? Express entry is popular because of its fast processing time. Successful applicants who meet the minimum eligibility requirement that I discussed before can submit their application in an express entry pool. And that's a highly competitive process, and it does not guarantee a PR status, because all applicants, all profiles that are submitted in an express entry pool are ranked against one another. Here, another point system came into play, the CRS, Comprehensive Ranking System. All profiles submitted to the pool are ranked against one another based on the CRS scores, and only the applicants with the highest CRS scores are invited to submit an application for the permanent resident. I can show you the CRS website just to give you an idea, a feeling how the score works. We can just add some imaginary values, arbitrary values, education and work experience, language ability as maximum we can do, and see how much the scores we got. This is the comprehensive ranking system website, and we just add some imaginary values and calculate the scores. It's 522 based on highest level of education and highest level of language ability in first official language as English, and we got 522. Fortunately, there is a website mentions the CRS score of the lowest ranked candidate invited historically. So the latest application pool was January 18, 2023, and that scores 490. So this means that every person with the 490 and above is invited to submit application for permanent residence through express entry. That summarizes the entire process of federal skilled worker through express entry. If anybody is willing to apply for permanent resident status in Canada, I would say higher the level of education, more the number of years of experience you have, and higher the language ability scores you got, greater is the probability to get accepted through express entry. Lastly, the most significant element of this discussion is I explained nothing legal, absolutely nothing legal, just guideline to understand the process of express entry and federal skilled worker program to become the permanent resident of Canada. If anyone wants to hire a consultant or an authorized immigration lawyer, he or she can just go to the IRCC website and find a person near you and hire him. This concludes today's discussion. You guys have a wonderful time. See you soon.